It took a while, but finally, people are starting to understand that design is not only decoration, cute, expensive chair, or embellishment, but rather that design is really the enzyme of innovation. Think about it. I mean, innovation happens in scientific labs, in your labs, but without designers, it would never become life. Designers are the ones that take great discoveries and make them into things that people can use. Everybody, not only you and me, but also people in the third world, in developing countries, they're really important. But it's up to designers to start and explain how design has changed. And I often use this fabulous slide, which we're not going to go into too much detail, to show that if design once upon a time was considered problem-solving or form follows function, you know, all those stereotypes and cliches that have been sold to everybody, it's not like that anymore. Design, just like your work, has become much more dynamic, more critical. It's about doubt. It's about pushing ideas further. It's not problem solving. It's about problem making and sometimes problem framing. And today I would like to show to you some of the new frontiers of design. Design that is sometimes low-tech, sometimes high-tech, but always inspiring, and that I hope will give you a perspective on the world at large and what designers and artists are doing. Design today is critical. It never takes things for granted, but rather starts from scratch, thinking of how things could be. And one of the questions that it asks all the time is, what if? You see here the works of Dunn and Raby that are the authors of that beautiful slide. They are the parents of critical design. And in this particular project that's called Foragers, they think of a world about 50 years from now when there's a big shortage of basic foods. And therefore, as human beings, we might have to go back to eating and digesting foods that we have not touched for centuries, such as algae, such as roots, such as leaves from plants. So they think of these outsourced gastrointestinal systems that are this contraption that you see there worn by some French students in the French countryside that enable us to pre-eat and pre-digest this nourishment that is become necessary. So you see, it's very borderline art. It's low-tech in that they're just models, but it makes people wonder what things could be like. Critical sometimes is just about showing how things are in a very overt way. Visualization design, we've been talking about porn a lot today. There's a lot of visualization design porn, but some visualization is really powerful. This visualization in particular highlights data that is available publicly. There are some blocks, city blocks in cities of the United States where the government spends more than $1 million a year to keep either some of the inhabitants in prison or in halfway houses. It's kind of a financial measure of social entropy and an indication of a system that doesn't really work. You can read on the newspaper in the morning that there are more than 300 of these blocks in Brooklyn alone, but you can be outraged and forget it in 20 minutes. When it is visualized like this, blood red over a black map of Brooklyn, this kind of magnitude and this tragedy and this problem, it remains with you forever. It's engraved in your mind. So sometimes design is about unveiling what is normally not shown. And that's why most design is activist. It's activist design even if it's not overtly political. You see here two examples of activist design. On the left-hand side, a very clear one. It's Ralph Borland who designed this suit that is to be worn by protesters to protect them from the batons of the police. It's well padded. It also has a camera on top of the head that films the action, just in case there's any recrimination that needs to be made about the police afterwards. But the most beautiful feature is a loudspeaker over the heart that amplifies the heartbeat, thus reminding police that it's like the flower and the cannon of yesteryear. But also, if you imagine hundreds of people wearing this suit, there's this amplified collective heartbeat that becomes almost threatening. It's like this ocean of humanity that is going to take everything in stride. On the right-hand side, a much more delicate activism. It's homeless shelters. I mean, any architectural student has designed homeless shelters, but in this case, these shelters are about highlighting the problem of homelessness. In your face, bright colors, it's there for everyone to see, just as is in this gorgeous alternative limb project by Sofia de Oliveira Barata. Amputees and their missing limbs become opportunities for artwork, for statements that are about embellishment, not just augmentation that is technical and biological, but that it also is aesthetic. I really love how some designers are responding and trying to communicate what the world could be like. The work of Arne Hendricks is based on science. So many of these designers really work closely with scientists. He just says that what we're doing today and the rate that we're consuming today sees it so that in 50 years we have to shrink to more than half our size in order to match the available resources after we consume that all. So the whole Shrinking Man project is a set of vignettes that really explains the finiteness of our destiny, not only of our resources. While these designers find out that there are new ways to communicate with gods, with our God, whatever they might be. On the left-hand side, it's a ticker tape connected to the BBC News for cloistered nuns in northern England that keeps their prayers relevant. It shows them what's going on. You know, they only get Vatican newspapers, and that's not very reliable news, if I may tell you. And on the right-hand side is a Muslim prayer mat that has an electroluminescent substrate and a compass module that lights it up when it's in the direction of Mecca. Now, we all know where Mecca is, but the gesture of kowtowing technology to religion is very beautiful, and it shows us that humanity is still what matters, no matter what kind of technology we're dealing with. And I want to show here Hiromi Ozaki's work, Sputniko. She is a teacher, a professor at the Media Lab also, but I knew her from before then. This is a menstruation machine, and it's one of my favorite objects ever. It's a contraption to be worn by men to have a full experience of a period. It has electrodes that descend over your lower abdomen and give you cramps. It has a reservoir in the back. You're supposed to draw your blood, put it in there. It gets delivered between your legs, the whole shebang. And to me, when I saw it, it was the most moving example of how design is really striving to enable us to have empathy and to communicate with our fellow beings. And I know that John Seeley Brown is in the audience, and I bow to him because this is his word, tinkering, thinking with your hands. So important today, even more important now that the materials that we are using do not have machines to operate with them yet. So important now that we have to understand better what we want to do. 3D printing of all kinds, of course, you know, we see on the right-hand side the Endless Chair by Dirk van der Kooi. It's a beautiful motion that all of you are probably used to, but what you might not know is that there are also designers that are countering rapid manufacturing with slow manufacturing. I particularly like the work of Markus Kaiser, who is doing laser sintering, but instead of laser sintering, it's solar sintering, using the sunbeams in the Sahara Desert that are concentrated by means of a Fresnel lens and glassifying the sand. So it's sand and sun instead of resin and laser. And you see that the beautiful vessel there looks like something that has existed for millennia, but at the same time, it carries the beautiful scar of 3D printing. Beautiful when such conceptual works happen and when they condense all that we're doing. Also, we are tinkering a lot with robots and with machinery. This is the work of Gramazio and Kohler, that are two architects working in Zurich, that of course collaborated with our beloved Raf D'Andrea and his robotics, actually complex systems laboratory. Organic is a holy grail. It's a goal that we've had forever in our design history, which is a history of millennia, and it's about doing it like nature does, because nature does it best. And the computer has gotten us so close to what nature does. And in the particular case of the labs like the one that is run by Neri Oxman, it's about using the computer to get closer to nature and then incorporating nature in order to fabricate. You might have all seen the video of the Silk Pavilion, and if you haven't, you should really go and watch it. Neri and her students studied the behavior of silkworms, studied how they behave and all the parameters, and then set up the conditions for these silkworms to build a pavilion. So the silkworms become the 3D printer, the cutest construction workers in nature. Even without using 3D printing and computers, many architects and designers are incorporating nature in their fabricating methods. And in particular, mushroom mycelium is one of the heroes of today. You know, used, as we know, in putting together insulating materials and packaging materials in the work of Ecovative, but also used by architects to keep together bricks of cornstalk and other biodegradable materials, and by some designers even as a shroud to decompose bodies after death, to decompose corpses. So there's at the same time poetry and practicality in trying to think of new ways of building and also new ways of making. Kind of creepy, but really interesting, the world of synthetic biology and the world of harnessing human materials to make things that normally were made by other means is really interesting. And here the work of Christina Agapakis and Cecil Tolas is human cheese. It's about making cheese out of bacteria that are human and in part also human milk. Why not? We might all have to deal with this in a few years, just like we're starting to also eat insects. Vision is something that is necessary and that we have to embrace. And in some cases, we go back to the algae, the other heroines of our time. In this case, Michael Burton and Michiko Nitta think of a future in which we have to imagine new symbioses that are once again about sustenance and about survival with algae and with other human materials. You know, so photosynthesis is something that we can incorporate in our bodies through algae. And of course, the vision of the architects and designers that are trying to grow building, and I know that we'll hear about it also here. Skylar Tibbetts actually has a demo on in our demo floor that talks about growing crystals in order to make buildings, while the work of Ben Aranda and Chris Lash, that goes back to 2008 to an exhibition that we did together called Design and the Elastic Mind, is about studying the perfection of some nanostructures and trying to grow from them, new ways of building fractal structures that could be urban plans, but that could also be facade treatments. So you see the variety is enormous, and the vision is one of augmenting our capabilities. The work of Andrew Friend is about taking us to the limit of death. On the right-hand side is a lightning rod that enables one to feel the whole brunt of a lightning with just enough insulation not to die. So it's about really bringing us where we haven't been before and reminding us that everything we do is political. And political sometimes is about recuperating old traditions. Designers are learning a lot from developing countries and from material culture from their own country. And in this case, it's Sicily. It's an institute that studies like natural resins made with honey, with beeswax, with straw. And these designers are trying to think of vessels that can be made today and that are a political statement of sorts. As is the work of Ai Hasegawa, I Want to Deliver a Dolphin. She hypothesizes that human beings could gestate not anymore human babies, but rather extinct or semi-extinct species. So sensitivity is what we really crave today in the world of design. Sensitivity to the environment, sensitivity to technology, sensitivity towards other human beings, and sensitivity towards the interdisciplinary work that is necessary in order to build together a better world. I know that designers are collaborating more and more with scientists, with engineers, and with people from other disciplines in these teams that are really thinking of a better future. And I hope that since they are the enzymes of innovation, they will also have more and more of a chance to work with you all. Thank you very much.